Call this meeting of the Committee Recycling and Corporate Affairs to order. I'll say a quick invocation. Let us pray. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together here safely today. We pray that you be with the ones who are hurt from this storm and who are injured and who need to be lifted up. And just be with us as we collect our lives and get over this small hurdle. And be with us as we go through this meeting today and do your will. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
And let's see. All right, first we got the agenda. Does anybody need to make any updates to the agenda? All right. Do we need to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I make that motion.
All right. Agenda's approved. All right, review of the Solid Waste Authority Public Benefits Program.
Mr. Chairman, let me start it out, and then Esther and Mike's going to take it and run with it. Getting ready for the budget, we felt like that it would be a good opportunity for this committee to really get involved in the programs that we offer, been offering for a long time. And we've really never done this since I've been here, to really look at what we do and see if, in fact, the board is still wanting to do these type things. When we started, I think everybody knew that we had more money than we do today. And some of them are, as I've coined a lot of these things, do-good programs. And sometimes you just kind of grow out of them. But we certainly want y'all to take a look at them. And if you want to prioritize them, discuss them, ask questions, learn as much about it as you possibly can, and then we'll take these type discussions right into the budget process, and I think it'll help our budget process a great deal. So.
Point of order, please. I see that Commissioner Mike Campbell came in. Mike, I know you don't suffer a malady that I do called HOH, hard of hearing.
Yeah.
But if it's be the will of the chairman, I would suggest we ask if he'd like to come up to the table and hear.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, pull up a chair. I think the
That's
chairman.
fine. Oh, anything's fine.
That's fine. Thank you, Lieutenant. Appreciate that. Yeah.
Steve Gosnell might want to come up.
I like that table in the back. I always used to sit there because I can write on it. I have something to lean on and write on. I like where Steve sits.
Kind of jealous, Steve. All right, so you want to take it from collection and hauling? I'll leave it up to y'all.
Well, Esther and I is going to sort of tag team this thing, I guess. I'm going to talk about some of the programs that we've got and what it entails and what the sheet means, and then we're going to sort of go down and go through them to try to quickly understand. Of course, the C&E Recycling Factory, I think it was started when most of y'all here were on the board, so you're pretty much familiar with that program. You know, we take in as much C&D as possible over there as we can, recycle as much. We did that when flow control was in effect in order to try to recycle as much of it as we possibly can while still getting the revenue. Mm-hmm. So that's the C&D recycling program.
What year did you start that?
2 years ago, so
Okay.
about 2012.
2012. And the revenue, the 125, is that the total for the 2 years?
No, that's the total for last year.
Okay.
That's the $125,000 we say, and that's the sale of the product coming out of it.
Okay.
And you have to realize now, in the last couple of years, we felt like when we started the program, and we'd probably end up getting more revenue than that, but recyclable product sales is tremendously less than it is today. That has kept us down on the revenue side on that thing.
Okay, I wondered about the year because I was looking at the revenue and I wondered how long it would take to pay for the expense of what you had done.
It was
So
about, there was about $400-some thousand worth of equipment and about another 400,000 spent on the building.
Okay. Is there anything else that you can recycle or use that's new to be put there, Tor?
We recycle everything that we can in order to get as much material that's in there that we got, markets for it.
Okay.
If something, you know, like a lot of times it's hard for us to get rid of scrap plastic. Which
Okay.
is, you know, like your flower pots and your things like that we get a lot of. And those things are kind of hard to get rid of, so we sort of pick and choose. Most is right now, we just about having to give it away to get rid of it. So we're not generating any revenue, which was 3 or 4 years ago, we was getting paid for it pretty good.
Okay,
So those things happen, and it's driving the revenue down on it.
okay.
Pam, I'm sure you recognize that they talked about the building and equipment together is not included here. It'd be upwards of $100 million or so of capital investment that's not included in the on the expense side.
Okay.
This is the operating expense on this.
Okay, that's the operating. Okay, exactly how much did it cost to build it?
The bit about, right close to $1 million.
Okay,
Time we bought the equipment, tried to meet DHEC standards. When you think about C&D recycling, ours is considered a solid waste processing facility,
okay,
and it is permitted through DHEC, where other C&D facilities in the county are not permitted. They're not required to be permitted because as long as they recycle 75%, we knew we couldn't meet that 75% goal
oh, okay,
because we don't haul concrete across the scale just to be hauling it, just so we can meet that 75% goal. So we knew we couldn't meet that goal. We're doing about 60% right now, 62%. And so we knew we couldn't. So we couldn't do it without being permitted. Then when you go to get it permitted, we had to put a tipping floor in, we had to put stormwater collection, had to put water out. We had to do several things to make sure it met state requirements for a solid waste processing facility.
so you're telling, I guess I'll use for instance, the two that we have in our books, whether they recycle 75%. If they're not meeting that goal, do they have to put in what you just said?
Yes, ma'am. Supposed to.
Thank you.
I think that I was here during that process, and what Mike's saying is correct. It could have been done more or less like Easy Dump and Lee have their yards, which was just coquina yards.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no requirements, as far as I know, other than whatever the county might require for stormwater drainage. But because of the fact that we chose not to recycle concrete, we knew that we could not meet the 75% goal, and we could not be classified as a recycling center. We would be a processing center.
Solid waste processing.
A processing center. The trade-off is that if you're a processing center as opposed to a recycling center, you don't have to meet the 75%, but you have to spend more money on things like stormwater control and other capital investments. So we have a first class, and we do, I'm sure you've been over there,
Yeah.
we have a first class recycling facility, and it's a wonder to watch it work. I'm just a tinker toy man from a kid, and I love to go over there and watch it work. We just got a state-of-the-art facility. Costs a lot of money, or costs more money to put in than what it would have otherwise, but it's there, and the numbers speak for themselves. The revenue's not as good as we'd like for it to be. It's not as good as it was several years ago, and it is what it is, but I appreciate the fact that Danny and the staff are saying, okay, as it relates to these types of programs, here's the facts related to them. And I'm seeing some of this for the very first time. Very good.
Mike, Can you make an educated guess of what the flow control changes will have on the factory?
Don't know yet. We're just in the first couple weeks of it. We got the storm. We had the storms here had us, so it's hard to just see what the effects is going to be as of yet. So we're definitely looking. We'll look at it, but we've not had a good week or 2 or 3 weeks to get any numbers really together. We have seen a little bit of downfall on the things, but I don't want to start calling out numbers right now. If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, we'd rather just wait and see where they go to. This number does not include the tipping fee revenue that facility receives.
Okay.
So every time, if we're doing 1,000 tons a month over there, I'm just using, that's probably a good average, you're probably talking $26 time that, so it'd be about $260,000 worth of additional revenue and tipping fees this facility receives.
Yeah, it was 238,000 last year.
Okay.
So you would add it to that number.
How does that come about?
Well, give you an example, we look at that as a separate operation, so when the haulers come in and they pay the tipping fee, it goes against that facility as money for that facility, and then Bill pays disposal for his material that comes back out.
The dregs, the rejects,
Oh,
that crosses
okay.
the scale.
Bill that facility has to pay for those dregs that come out of that facility to be disposed of. So that they receiving the revenue, and then they taking care of the cost. It's just a paper trail back and forth. But we felt like that the facility needed to get those tipping fee monies, too, so.
I love, you, Danny calls it downtown, you call it across the bridge. And I've heard Danny say dregs, and I understand dregs, that means you couldn't recycle it, so you took it up to the hill. And was $230,000 of money that initially came through the factory. But it's not included in this count because it's already included in the amount going into the landfill. So we can't double count it. We can't count it as revenue twice. You just got to choose, well, which part will it count? If we were to count it here, we would have to deduct it from the amount going to the hill, so to speak. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well,
Yeah.
Talking
they
about
gonna
tipping fees?
The landfill actually receives the revenue from the dregs. They don't receive the money from the hauler that carries the material over there.
But it's not going to offset one another, is it? You're going to have more in revenue
Yeah,
than the disposal of the dregs.
Right.
because he's taking 62% of the weight out of it. So,
There's still a net gain
right,
from the tipping fee.
yeah, we made sure with the auditors, we had that right when we went through that process. We called the auditors in to make sure we didn't.
How are you saying it's a net gain?
Because when they pay the tipping fees that go into the factory, for the weight that go into the factory, there's less tonnage that goes into the landfill for the dregs. So it's not $230,000 worth of income and then $230,000 worth of cost. There's not as much cost in tipping fees, disposal fee. There's less cost in disposal fee than there is what they got in tipping fee. Am I saying that the right way?
I'm
I
understanding.
get what you're saying.
I'm confusing myself.
Well, basically what you do if you take 1 ton over there, and Bill would take 62% of that 1 ton out, 1,100 or 1,200 pounds of it, he'd have to pay for 800 pounds going to the landfill on a ton, 2,000 pounds on a ton.
Well, that flips as much as it flops. If we can't get nothing for what we recycle and it costs us a bunch of money, $600,000 to recycle it, we might be better off just to forget the recycling part and get the 2650 straight up. I mean, you can't.
But the big point there is airspace.
Good point.
That's where you've got, you don't have anything on this sheet that shows you how much airspace the factory is saving. Now, Bill can tell you, he's got it worked out to how much the mattresses saves airspace, how much the carpet program saves. So,
Well, those aren't included in what goes to the factory, but we also are looking at the fact that we're gonna lose as much as 35,000 tons. I mean, that's the impetus for this, so, we're dealing with a calculus problem where the variables move. You move one, it's like a marshmallow and it pokes out somewhere else, but it's still valuable, to me anyway. I don't want to make hard and fast any of these numbers, but it is very useful to understand what you just said, Danny, that, well, you may lose money in one analysis on the handling, the processing of the C&D that we do over there. But then you need to bring back in mind that at some point in time, that space, that permitted space that we're not taking up has value. And so, then you say, well, how much value is that? It's kind of undetermined at this point, but it's a good thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out.
I agree. I think the airspace is valuable, and I think depending on the things we do not put there that may cause a problem later on that would be toxic or cause something to come out that we had to deal with that would cost a lot of money. I think it is very valuable to recycle, to not put it in there, and to look at what it's saving us to do that.
I think if you look at the carpet program, that shines a big light on this discussion. We take the carpet in, get the tipping piece over there. We pile it up back there. Then we pick it up and move it to the front of the building. Then we take a bobcat and put it on a tractor trailer truck. Wellman comes and gets it free. We don't make any money on that carpet. But you've got to remember it's almost a million tons.
For 6 months, 500,000 pounds.
That's
That
not
you don't
gone in
put
that
in.
hole.
And
It's gone to Wellman, and he ain't paid a dime for it. But we have saved that space.
What does he do with it? What
Makes,
does,
makes Toyota bumpers.
But that's not included in this one line item, C&D Recycling Factory. I agree 100%
The
with.
carpet stuff is part of the people at the C&D recycling field do the carpet recycling, and the other recycling products over there, the metal and all that is done at that facility.
Well, here's my thought on it. I think we can talk about it. We can continue to talk about it. My thought is for the factory, due to the recent change in flow control, it's too early for us to make any decisions about what we're going to do with it, because we don't know what like I said, the factors, we don't know what the factors are. Maybe we need to wait.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, this meeting is to make you all understand the programs.
Okay.
Not necessarily do anything about them, but to just understand them, so as we go through the process over the next 6 months, you'll be fully aware of what each program does. And, and if you're out in public and somebody asks you, you'll be able to say, yeah, we do C&D recycling, this is what we do. Or we do public education recycling, this is what's part of it. It's just not public education.
Okay.
You understand
yeah.
the whole process.
Yeah. The only other thing I'd like to ask, and guess because I don't know everything that goes through there, obviously we're not going to make Toyota bumpers. We're not going to get into that. I wouldn't think. It might be profitable. But is there anything in that factory that we're losing money on, or that we could make more money on by buying a piece of equipment and processing it to sell?
The only thing that we found, and Bill and I has discussed it, and we really didn't have the money last year, and we had to take it off the wish list, as we call it, is to be able to grind the wood rather than, we have a tremendous amount of wood that comes through that facility. Mm-hmm. We have to double handle it. We have to take it over to the facility, top it off, then they have to grind it. We had some kind of grinding mechanism to grind it as it came off of the thing. We wouldn't have to double handle it, go right in a trailer and be ready
How
to sell.
much would that cost?
I think it's about $300,000.
Ha ha. I don't see why we couldn't find the money to do that if it would be that helpful.
Well, it's something we need to look at through the budget process.
Okay. If
I
there's
mean-
anything else,
Yeah.
that can be bought to process that? I'd like to know about them too.
It would be feasible to maybe subcontract it out to somebody who already has a grinder?
Well, we have grinders, but that would need to be a grinder that's run off electricity and be stable, stationary.
Okay.
So that when they drop the piece of wood, it automatically grind it and carry it right on out and put it in the truck.
Yeah, and one thing that Mike said that really helped me a lot was I'd had conversations early this morning, studying this material with Esther and Jan and Mike. And Mike summed it up by saying that, the committee can, of course, can discuss anything it wants to, but the purpose from the staff is less a matter of coming up with a priority of what do we do without if we lose 35,000 and $1 million and all that kind of stuff. That's part of the budget process, and that will come up in subsequent meetings. The purpose today is to make sure that this committee, the recycling committee, has as good an understanding as possible of what these line items mean and what this narrative means, and less a matter of getting into, well, does this have this value or does it have that value? It's just understanding the process. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, any more questions on that one?
Is that where we just moved the chipping back there? Is that
No.
the same? That's different?
It's right here.
Okay.
It's right here across the road over here. It's one with the shelter over it. See, because we have a solid waste processing facility, we had to build a concrete pad. We had to put a shelter over it.
Okay. Okay,
Those are
I
some of the
didn't think
requirements
about
that's
that.
required on a solid waste processing.
Okay.
Must be sheltered.
Okay.
If we didn't have to put that metal building up, it would have been a lot less to do that facility.
Okay.
But because it was a solid waste processing facility, we had to put a shelter over it.
And how many workers are there?
We use temp labor so we can increase and decrease on the line as much as possible. We running two, sometimes three people.
We got 2 of our own and 6 to 7 temps.
Okay.
And I recommend, I know that Bill will make provision, but it's a marvel it's similar in a way to the MRF. They got stuff and they dump it out on the floor, and they take it, put it on a conveyor belt.
Yeah, I've seen it. It is neat. You're right.
And you got people pulling stuff out that's worth,
Yeah.
got market value, and the rest of it goes to the hill. And it's all state of the art. I say
Yeah.
state of, I mean that it's not a bunch of old claptrap used stuff. I mean, we got good.
It was the
I
cheapest
enjoy
equipment we
going
could
over
find at the time to make it work, I can tell you that.
Say
'Cause
that again.
it was the cheapest piece of equipment we could get at the time to make it work. The other bidder on it was $200,000 higher just for the line.
Yeah, he was about $1 million for his equipment.
Yeah. And we've done the whole,
I grew up trying to make stuff work out of old World War II surplus stuff. I know the difference between having, state of the art, what I call it, and something that you make shift put together. We got good stuff over there.
It works.
oh, yeah.
About the biggest state-of-the-art thing on that rig is a magnet
The magnet.
that pulls the metal out. Yeah, everything, pretty much. I mean, we used an old baler that we had over there. We didn't buy a baler, so we had an old one. And really, all that building wasn't constructed for this thing. It was an existing building for storage. We just built the shelter on one end and the tipping floor. So, we utilized an old building that was kind of a junk deposit.
Yeah, I put that building up years ago. It was an old Pasco building, made in Columbus, Georgia. I'm glad you were able to make good use of it, Danny.
I just wonder if it leaked when you put it up.
Probably did.
Is there still a warranty on that from when he put that up?
Now we know who put it up.
Yeah.
Go back and look.
Maybe that wasn't the one we put up.
You ready to move?
You are.
Yeah. The store, of course, is over here, the facility, it's You can see expense about 24,008, and that does include basically what we do with that program is we have a partnership with Horry County Council on Aging. It's their employees, they pay them, they run it, they sell the material. We provide material from the recycling centers. Some people do donate over there, but we bring materials from the recycling centers, the county's recycling centers, that would have went into the landfill, that people bring there, that would have went to bulk waste containers and stuff, and bring it there. It's good, not all of that stuff, but what we see some good things on it, and they bring it there and they resell it. And at the end of the year, we take into account how much money they spent, they take into account how much we spent, and then we split the money. And that's pretty much, am I right, Jan? That's pretty much how it is. We split it. We don't charge them any rent. We bought the facility because it was so close to us. So we could have the building sitting over there with nothing on it. I mean, with nobody in it. And we chose to utilize it, and that's why it was, because it was right at our doorway, and we knew if somebody else bought the property that didn't like us very much, it would, maybe an issue with so many trucks coming in and out, which would be an issue for anybody living over there. So we felt it was best to try to buy the property when it came available. And it was approved to buy it, and we bought it, and that's been it. And so that's when Horry County Council on Aging came up to wanted to do it, and that was the program we done.
I went in there right before the last meeting we had here. I've never been in before. And they do an excellent job in displaying that, and I'm amazed at the stuff that is in there.
In that little house.
Is there an advertising budget to let people know they're there? Because I believe if people in this county knew they were there, that they would have a huge turnover.
We do. We've advertised a great deal on it. Try to get articles written on it and stuff like that. We don't run an ad every week. But
Do
yeah,
they go on Craigslist or the swap shops that are free?
Not I know.
No, I know they've advertised some in the papers, and I know they have what's called a rat card, that they have out at their senior centers. So the word's gotten out that way also.
Okay. The two ladies out there and I discussed it, and, they have traffic, but I think they could have some more traffic being on Craigslist and calling into the swap shops and different things, that they really had some great buys on things that the elderly would use, that they really can't afford to buy new, that are in excellent shape. And I'd like to see them try those two things and see if they can't turn that over more.
And it was something we can look at in the future budget year instead of talk to them about it.
Okay.
The first year it was, the money was sort of tight, and the second year it got a little bit better, and this year it's got a little bit better. And so, if we can continue to do that, maybe there'll be some funds that we can do. They take it and put it for Meals on Wheels, their portion of it. And we put ours in the thing, help maintain the property, basically. But anyway, that's pretty much, but it's something we can look at in the budget, be willing to do.
Okay.
Well, following on with what you're saying, I'm amazed at the turnaround that it is occurring. This would be our third full year we're in. The first 8 months was a $50,000 loser, and that's not unusual. That was startup cost. Our agreement with the Council on Aging, is that right? Is that we would pick up all losses for the first 3 years. So that's just part of the deal. And losing $50,000 in a startup in an old building like those were, I remember we helped rehab those buildings when it was the Horry County Boys Shelter Home, something like that. They were out of code 30 years ago when we helped with that certain construction company around here, put the squeeze on everybody. Okay, you do this, you do this. Anyway, lawyers don't do that, but contractors do, I can tell you. Anyhow, but then the second year, which was the year most recently completed, they turned a $8,000 to $10,000 gain, which we split with them. And now they're moving at the rate of, I forgot what, it would be 20,000, is that right, roughly the
They
difference
continue
there.
at the rate they're going for,
Sorry?
if they continue at the rate they currently go.
Yeah, if they continue to go, of course, the economy's always a factor. But Elaine Gore, Danny had arranged for me to, I knew Elaine, but I knew her mostly as a spouse of a friend. But she's a very vivacious lady. And have you met her, Elaine Gore?
No.
Go into what you were talking about. Maybe you could hook up with her. And one of the disadvantages that we have is our location and trying to compete with the locations of the Salvation Army and what's that one that's got the fancy stores?
Goodwill.
Goodwill.
Goodwill and Habitat for Humanity. They're just more visible, and in some ways they do something similar. But we are where we are. But I agree with you that maybe there's some affordable ways. I know Elaine would be, you and she would hit it off because she's like you in some ways. And that might be a good idea to keep moving it in the right direction. The other factor is that in addition to goodwill, but it takes some, I don't think it's a lot, but it takes some out of the landfill.
Jan, are the Council on Aging's expenses approximately equal to our expenses?
Theirs are strictly payroll. That's the only expenses that they have. This year, the expenses that you see there are primarily payroll. Well, it's all payroll. Right now, that's all that we have going as far as expenses towards the stores, their payroll expenses.
But
And the
electricity and,
All of that we're absorbing ourselves.
okay,
That's not an expense going towards the store. Because those are expenses that we would incur even if the store was not over there. You know, because we did purchase the property and it is ours, we would incur those expenses anyway, so we don't have those going towards the store.
okay.
The State Insurance Reserve Fund, which is something I didn't know, if you have it insured, you have to have utilities in it,
You do.
or they won't cover the insurance.
Okay, so their people are not volunteers.
No, ma'am.
Now, one other positive point on the store being there. Before we established the store, we had people in here all the time wanting those buildings for something. I mean, we went through a big review of a lady wanted an unwed teenage home, homeless home. We had a lot of those type requests. So, keep that in mind too.
You could move it back over to the beach where it came from and turn it into a crack house overnight, I can tell you that.
Recreation
Okay.
center.
Any more questions on that? Okay, our LFG, which stands for landfill gas. That is our green power system and the collection on our landfill. As you can see, it doesn't support all the labor and stuff that we do on that, but there's other benefits to it. There's a benefit of odor reduction. We have to collect it. We could collect it and burn it, but we still have to collect it. And we wouldn't receive any of the revenue, but we have to keep them monitored, and it keeps with our liners over the top of the landfill, keeps them from blowing up like a balloon and everything goes sliding off of it. But
Say that again.
it keeps them from, the methane gas, the way our landfills is built with the polyurethane liner over the top of it, and it's closed at the bottom. If you didn't pump the gas out of it, it'd just keep blowing up till the stuff would just slide, the material would slide off the side of it. So we have to have to keep the gas. We have to take the gas out of it, whether we wanted to or not. We'd have to. Second thing is, we got a Title V permit that emissions that we meet. And if we did not collect it properly, we would be emitting more material. The more we can collect, the less ozone emissions we put out, greenhouse gases we put out. And when you reach a certain threshold of emitting so much greenhouse gases, you go under federal regulation. You move from state to federal. And when you move to federal, it gets expensive.
About another $1 million,
So
just to get the permits.
yeah, and then they start telling you what you will and won't do, and what you will, you don't have no choice at that point in time. So there is some benefit there, as long as we can keep the greenhouse gases down, stay under the federal regulations. There was one time we thought that we may hit them in 2013,
Correct.
but we didn't. We were able to stay below the Title V emissions permit to keep us out of it. Am I saying that right, Bill?
Yes.
And so we want to make sure we keep them low so we don't have federal requirements kick in on us. And that system does that. And we generate power off of it. And of course, you can see that's the revenue generation on it. It's about $122,000.
And that's strictly selling it back to,
Santic
Santic
people.
people.
Yeah. They own the generators. They own the plant. We provide the gas to the plant.
Did they build the plant?
They build the plant.
They put in the equipment,
They put in the equipment. And they maintain it.
and they maintain it?
And they have a man on site that's there every day.
What
Okay.
was our part for that 220, what do we do for that 226,000?
Well, you know, it's maintenance of the system. We had a new blower system this year. We had to put in a new blower system and other things, any maintenance costs on it. We have to keep the guys out there maintaining those wells. You can't get too much oxygen in them. You can't let enough oxygen get in them. You get too much oxygen in them, it causes problems in the landfill. You know, there's all kinds of things. So we're constantly monitoring every one of those heads you see sticking up out of that landfill to make sure that the amount of methane gas getting to our skid is correct. Moisture got to be correct in it. I keep looking at Bill to make sure I'm not saying that I'm not supposed to. But you do all of that as you doing that part of it. Then on top of that, probably one of the biggest maintenance problems is you have to keep the wells dewatered. And you constantly got somebody out there pulling those wells out. They have to take them apart, clean them, put them back in.
What is is it just a metal pipe going down to the bottom of the landfill?
It's perforated pipe going down there, and the water comes in and it's pumped to our leachate lines over to the leachate tanks. That's how we try to keep them dewatered. And that's one of the biggest headaches we got on that system out there.
And Stephanie does that, right?
Her and Jamie Suggs, and Jamie's pretty much full-time on the gas system. You know, constantly monitoring, making sure the pumps are working. Like Mike said, checking the oxygen level out there. If you get too much, you can shut the whole skid down out there. And, but part of that number right there, we did do an upgrade, and I think we reported it in a couple of our board meetings there, where the system we had was put in 2001. And it's just like anything else with your phone or anything, technology gets better. Stuff started to wear out. That gas can be corrosive, and we needed new equipment over there. So that's what we did last year about this time, upgraded the whole skid system.
Does pulling that methane gas out help the compaction rate?
Well, it will help the decomposition a little bit more, and you'll get a little bit more settlement out there.
Odor is probably one of the biggest benefits you get for the community. And I think you'll remember when Vance was doing his briefings on closure and post-closure, this work has to continue on. If we shut the gate today,
Yeah.
those wells would have to that. Now, you wouldn't have to generate electricity. You could flare it. But it's expensive, and our guys have really learned. They put a lot of the wells in themselves now, especially the laterals, fix the ones, and that's probably one of the nastiest jobs we got here when you start pulling those pumps out of those pipes, because it's down in the leachate, all the way at the bottom of the landfill.
And what causes that, now, a lot of times the wells you can put a well in and it lasts 2 years. You can put a well in and it lasts 6 months. Then you have to go back in and put another well. Because if the landfill shifts, then it'll, you know, you have to, it's no longer any good, so you have to go put another one in.
Part of the last upgrade we did, we had figured it, we had measured, we lost about 38% of the perforated pipe that goes down in there that the gas comes up. So we re-drilled 6 wells out there and replaced all that perforated piping in there to increase the flow. So it just, like Mike said, it's nasty, and it just starts to clog up your, you know, your lines in there. So you got to do something, keep that gas from, you know, building.
I'm fully in favor of this continuation of the program. I would like to think, if I was in your shoes as manager out there, I'd talk to Jan and say, Jan, when we rebuild, capitalize this thing, don't charge me no expense on it, and
Oh, no,
spread it out over.
that's got to come out of capital.
Are we capitalizing that? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
But I grew up when marshes in Myrtle Beach were real marshes, Wither Swash and others. If you were on the landward side, you know, and a sea breeze came up, you knew exactly what
Yeah.
sulfur dioxide smelled like. It was as bad as being on the leeward side of the old Myrtle Beach dump.
One of the telling tales is we do these tours with the different leadership groups, and when they all come in, they're all amazed what little bit they smell.
Yeah.
You know, and I take them right up to the very top up there where it can really just get to you, and they're just blown away. They don't smell it.
Well, you know, there was successful and then unsuccessful court case about the Lee County landfill. Eight residents got a $2.3 million judgment. But then the state Supreme Court said that trespassing does not include smells going across the property line. So that's a different subject. But the point is, the initial judgment dealt with keeping the odor down. The smell. It's like living next to a hog lot. If you're on the leeward side of a hog lot, you know what it smells like, or a marsh or whatever. So it is what it is. We need to be doing what we're doing. I'm sure y'all capitalize what you can, spread it out over a period of time, appreciate it. But if it costs more than what you get out of it from Santee Cooper, so be it. Sell more green customers.
Yeah. I agree with you wholeheartedly. That's a program I don't think we need to cut. The community would have a fit, I feel sure. And the other things that we do as far as staying under state regs and so forth, I think we'd be a whole lot better off. Now, we could raise the energy rate to Santee Cooper.
When you get out talking throughout the state, we get about 6 cents
Yeah.
per kilowatt. Is it kilowatt hour or megawatt hour? I don't remember which one it was, kilowatt hour. But we get about 6 cents as it burn it.
Is that normal?
And we are, when you go talking throughout the state, they think that's a good number. That you hear numbers as low as 3 and 4 cents a kilowatt.
Oh, okay.
So, and then you hear some up north it's 10, but it's got to do where you're at. So, and Santee Cooper has chipped in the past in their benefit to help us put in more wells so they could get more gas.
Okay.
So it's been a partnership that's worked. You know, not only do they pay us, but they have helped from and every time we go put in a new set of wells, Bill will make the call. Y'all want to help pay? Y'all want to do this? You want to do this? They're trying to get more money out of them.
Yeah.
So it has worked well. We think it's even if it's good community. It's being a good resident of this community by doing that. The collection and hauling, I'm going to let Exeter talk a little bit about that. Collection and hauling is something we offer businesses for services of picking up recycling, and I'll let her take it from there.
In the narrative that was included in your packet, I had a summary of the collection and hauling department, and it's basically exactly what Mike said. That program was started in the early 90s as a means to collect recyclables, primarily from businesses, but to include also schools. Currently, the program handles the office paper, the classroom paper program, the cardboard program, the cafeteria program at the schools, the talking trash program at the schools, and any commingle recycling programs that we're running, and those are limited just because of infrastructure on our end. We lease the 8-yard containers cardboard program to customers at a monthly rate of about $28 per month. The recycling roll-off containers are leased at $100 per month. And then with the office paper program, we have a 65-gallon roll cart that we sell to customers at about $45, $46. And that's their cart to keep forever and ever. The numbers in your narrative give you an indication of how much material's been collected through the cardboard and the office paper program over the course of fiscal year 13. And the revenue that you see on the program analysis sheet, the 248,000 number, is solely revenue generated through the lease of the roll-off containers and the 8-yard containers. The program collects the material, it goes over to the MRF where it's processed and marketed for sale. I also included in your narrative what would be the accounted for revenue that's generated through this program that goes over to the MRF. The cardboard that's collected in fiscal year 13 accounted for approximately $531,000, and the sale of the office paper generated about $66,000. In addition to the benefit of collections and bringing it to the MRF for processing, there's also an offset for businesses. When we visit businesses and we do our waste analysis, which is something I'll talk about later, it's always with the goal of letting them know that besides the fact that, you might be somebody who just wants to do it because you feel it's the right thing to do, or you want to have a green business, so you want to begin recycling. But even more than that, if you're recycling, it's a means of also providing some economic benefit to that business through the savings of disposal costs or of lift service through a private hauler. Since there's no charge from the Solid Waste Authority to service your container, and we will service your container based on usage. If it needs service once a week, that's what we set you up for. If it needs service 6 times a week, that's what we're going to provide. We do lots of training to make sure that container's used to its ultimate goal. We try our best not to pick up light containers. But we gave you some numbers there on the estimated cost savings to those customers that have participated in the collection and hauling programs. Besides office paper and the cardboard program, we also provide roll-off services to various businesses. If you are a hotel at the beach and you wanted to do commingled recycling, you're using a roll-off recycling container, which allows you to mix in your plastic, your glass, your aluminum, your steel, along with your newspaper and some limited small cardboard. So we provide service for those. We also internally provide service to several of the departments. We provide the hauling service for the MRF for their rejects that come here to the landfill, as well as for the glass that we are generating or creating, the crushed glass over at the MRF that's hauled by collection and hauling back here to this site. Over at the C&D factory, when Bill has his roll-offs ready to move that have the aluminum in it, that might have plastic, drink bottles, scrap plastic that Mike mentioned earlier, we haul from the C&D factory over to the MRF. We also, on a case-by-case basis, provide some hauling services for various community functions. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much collection and hauling.
Give you a little history on it. That program probably started like Esther said in early. Actually, the paper part of it started back in the 80s.
That's exactly right.
The county actually did it. Started in the late 80s, collecting office paper. But the cardboard program, the solid waste authority really got big into it in the mid 90s when they bought Waste Management's cardboard side. Waste Management wanted to get out of cardboard collection, and they bought that. They also bought Waste Industries service from them and took over that and started collecting. They didn't want to collect it anymore. Back then, the prices were $15 to $25 a ton, so it wasn't real profitable for them to do it. And what we've been able to do with this program is keep a consistency for the businesses. No matter what the market price does, we still service them. So when the bottom of, fell out, when it got to $20 a ton a few years ago, we didn't try to go get out of the business. We continued because we were recycling, saving landfill space. And so we got a consistent program. And anytime you're doing a program, any kind of recycling program, consistency's good. You got to know that you can always get rid of it because you can't stop and start it like you want to.
And even when Waste Management got out of the cardboard recycling program, they now work through us for cardboard recycling. If they have a garbage customer who wants or needs cardboard recycling, they funnel that through us. So they utilize our program as well as regular private
Yeah,
customers.
we have two or three haulers that do that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Are there municipalities that collect cardboard?
Oh, no, well, let's think. Surfside Beach collects cardboard along, because they do a business recycling program along with their residential. So they will collect what I would call large-scale cardboard with their collection system. The city of Myrtle Beach and the city of North Myrtle Beach utilize mainly our services. North Myrtle Beach, however, does still collect some cardboard on their own. Conway pretty much utilizes just our program. And we work with them. Anytime we go into a municipality, we work with that solid waste services office to make sure we're meeting what they need as far as placement of containers and things of that nature, to the point where they sign off on our agreements when we go into a customer to have service started.
What cost us over $1 million? And is that every year? Is that the cost every year, or is that the cost for?
That, the $1 million expense you see there is the audited operating cost for that division. And that's the operation of all the trucks, the drivers, maintenance. In fiscal year 13, would that include, it includes the depreciation on the equipment, which is significant. When you're depreciating 6 to 7 trucks over a 7-year period, that depreciation is, and I didn't bring my budget, so I can't tell you how much of that figure is depreciation. But it's probably, if I had to guess, I'd say in about the $200,000 range.
Okay, so our operations over $1 million and our revenue's $248,000.
That revenue is solely the revenue through the lease of the containers. That's the only portion of revenue that's attributed to that program.
That's not the product itself.
No, sir. That's not the product that they collect. That's only the lease of the containers.
Okay, but if we get the product and we sell it, why would you not add what we were paid for the product to that revenue?
We don't take our revenue and disperse it out that way.
Okay.
We don't operate in cost centers. It goes into a general fund. And so the revenue for the MRF, any revenue that's generated from the MRF is for the MRF.
Okay, well, I understand what you're saying, but.
Because they also don't pay processing fees either for the material they take over to the MRF. We would have to,
Yeah,
The MRF hard times helps pay
right.
for the haul.
And
Okay.
I'll give you an example. And what's happened, is the MRF, we're looking at the MRF profitability. When the product went down, we sort of look at the MRF to help support this operation.
okay,
But in 2011, I think it's about $940,000 in profit come out of the MRF. In 12, it was over $1 million.
okay,
So, it normally does it, but what's happened over the last 12 months is the sale of recyclable products, the dollar amount we get out of them is dramatically dropping. The market has dropped out since China has, economy has turned downward.
yeah.
And so normally in a typical year, the MRF would make enough money to more than support this route, this facility.
Okay,
I mean, this route, this collection and hauling. It would make more than enough money to support it, to offset it, but with the recyclable sales going down, it is hurting.
Okay. Because it would be beneficial to me to know what else does that to make up for that, because if I looked at $1 million outgoing, $248,000, I'd be very upset that
Yeah.
that continued. That was all that was.
Yeah. And if you look
in
at
it.
if you look at the MRF and combine the two together,
Yeah.
looking at MRF and combine the collection and hauling together, typically it would be profitable, the two together.
Okay.
Exactly.
But when
I
you,
don't necessarily agree with that. I think your point is well taken, and we don't have a combination of the two. We got a $12 million MRF over there. At times I've sat here and we've had to take six-figure money. You know, that 15% money we do every quarter, we've had to take 15% money and throw it over to the MRF because it was losing money. And MRFs make money and they lose money. Or it was put into a contingency fund in case the MRF loses money.
what we did in that, Mr. Gray, is the board created a fund that said if the MRF was making money and was profitable, taking into consideration the hauling, collection and hauling portion of it,
That's correct.
and there was a profit, we would take a percentage of that profit if the organization as a whole was making money and put it in a contingency fund. But that was only if the MRF was making money after paying for the collection and hauling.
Okay.
Anyhow, we move money from operating. We got more than 15% cash on hand. So we move it over to one of the restricted accounts. One of the restricted accounts has to do with MRF. But the main thing that I agree with you on is that if you want to understand, well, how does this place work and where do we make it and where we don't make it, and you look at just one snapshot, and I recognize that that's all this is a snapshot in time. It doesn't deal with everything over a period of time. That would be a place to look. Now, I'm familiar with three private companies, Shred Right, Centos, they also do uniforms, and Iron Mountain. And they're out there and they're competing and they're charging companies, and I assume making a profit for doing the exact same thing that we losing money at. So, and then, you know, I could go on. As you say, we got into it because two companies decided to get out of it and sold their interest in it to us cheap or something like that. I don't think that our job as a government-owned flow control monopoly is necessarily to compete with free market enterprise businesses who don't have that advantage and who have the additional burden of having to pay income taxes and property taxes. And so I think we need to be holistic in how we look at things. Well, maybe it was a good thing for us to provide these free services or low-cost services or continued services at one time. But perhaps now, at this point in time, we need to take a look at things, and we don't need to necessarily lose money in this manner. I don't say that can be said yes or no in this one meeting, but I just wanted to get it on the record that as we analyze things, you correctly and frequently talk about you like to look at things from a business point of view. You come from a business point of view. Our whole country is built on free enterprise companies generating profits that are taxed to fund government facilities. That's what we are, a government facility funded by taxpayers. Yeah. And I think that whenever there's a possibility that we might be actually competing with and undercutting the market of services that are already being provided, we need to take a look at it and just see if we need to continue that.
But before the budget or whatever, anything else that you would think would be helpful to add to that side that would prove we get a little bit closer to that, I'd like to see it.
Okay. You know, and the Solid Waste Authorities, one of their goals when they started this thing was to keep a sustainable, continuing recycling program in the county, whether it be, and the only way you can do that is with having tipping fees to support it when things are bad. and it supports itself when it's good, and you continue those programs. We're, majority of the time, private industry, like you said, and Mr. Gray said, you know, when times are, you know, they look at the bottom line and they make adjustments accordingly, no matter what business you're in. You make those adjustments, and what the Solid Waste Authority and direction from the board's been in the past, may change. But what the direction the board's been in the past is, we want to maintain these programs and give people an outlet for this recyclable material, no matter what the price is. And when the price goes down and it don't support itself, we'll support it with tipping fees. That's typically what the Solid Waste Authority's mission has been in the past. If that changes, you know, we'd definitely look at it and do what we got to do, but that's been the mission.
Yeah, well, I'm for keeping as much of the recycling and those kinds of programs as I can. That's one reason I'd like to see what you think goes into the MRF that would add to that, and airspace that would add to that, because I'd like a whole picture. I'd like all pieces of the puzzle to be put in there before I would make a decision.
Okay. All right. The HHW, that's the Household Hazardous Waste Program. That's the cost associated with it. We take material and we accept it, and to keep it out of the landfill. Can it go into landfill? Yes. Do we think it should not? Yes. We think it should not go into landfill. We think it's better for us to recycle those products, try to get them, keep them out of the landfill, the batteries and other things that we do. And that's about $111,000 a year cost. It comes direct cost out of it. There is no revenue to support it in no matter.
The batteries, is there a drop-off at each convenience center?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Do we not get, when you buy a battery, you pay a fee for disposal? Do we not get any of that back?
No, ma'am.
Why?
State don't give it to us.
Is there grants or something you can apply for, or does that not work that way?
It hasn't worked that way in the past. No, ma'am. Mm-mm.
Okay, well,
$2.25 for 911.
okay. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Hazardous household waste does not need to go in this landfill, particularly because of where it's built with the swamp and water sources. I definitely am willing to pay that to keep that out of this landfill.
Yeah, this is one of the programs that we're looking for alternative ways to try to fund it rather than through tipping fees.
Mostly paint, isn't it?
Well, there's a lot of pesticides. 11, I think Bill reported 11,000 batteries we had picked up last time. You know, there's a lot more in there. There's a lot of pesticides and chemicals and that kind of thing that people use around home and stuff that is in there. A lot of it is paint, Mr. Gray. You're correct. A lot of it is paint. And people could get rid of the paint if they'd open the container up, fill it up with sawdust, and it could go in the thing, but they don't do that. So this is what we got. Danny, did you have something you wanted to add? I seen you lean up. So that's pretty much it where it stands. But we started that program early on, and that's what we try to do with it.
Do you ever get prescription drugs that people
No,
bring?
we don't take prescription drugs.
Okay, because I've had several people in different communities that ask me, evidently a loved one's died, and it seems like there are a lot of elderly people on a lot of prescription drugs from what they say, and they don't know what to do with
The
them.
sheriff's department's run several programs on those, taking those at the M.L. Brown building.
And,
The sheriff has.
and we also encourage people, if they have prescription drugs, to get rid of, to take them back to the drugstore, to the pharmacy, and they'll dispose of them.
They'll dispose of it, because I definitely don't think they need to be thrown in bags and put in the landfill by any means.
A lot of times what drives that is the wastewater. And I've talked to Fred Richardson if he thought that the medicines were causing him any problem. He said no. So when you watch I think City of Conway Police is doing one, and they getting, I think, a lot of publicity out of it, and the sheriff's department's doing it. So we just never did get involved in it, because you've got to have an officer there to keep the stuff and chain of custody and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So we never have gotten into that.
Okay.
Next, I guess, moving on.
Yeah,
Donation and participation program, that is we usually put $10,000 per year in the budget for that program. It's to help Habitat for Humanity ask for a lot for disposal when they build in new houses. It's for nonprofits that request disposal fees to be waived. It has a maximum amount of dollars that any one person can get. And they have to send in a letter requesting what they want to do for it. Once in a while, we'll get requests from other nonprofits, churches, people coming in and putting shingles on people's houses. You know, you got these groups that go around and re-shingle elderly people's houses or remodel them. We get a lot of requests from those. We get requests from churches sometimes, a lot of nonprofits, and that's what that is. And so we spent, I think she's got on here about $5,400 last year in that account, but we usually put about $10,000 a year in that account to be given out up after the request, and it has to meet certain criteria
It does,
in order for them to get it.
and that's a board policy.
So,
Okay.
so we can't just waive the tipping fee, we have to pay for the tipping fee ourselves?
Does that include, Keep Horry County Beautiful when you pick up, or when they pick up stuff and because some of them have taken me on a ride and thought it would just really be beneficial for me to ask that they not have to pay over and above what they had, which is not my thing, but is that what that's used for?
We are encouraging the cleanup of a certain community now to come from the community
Okay,
instead of from the Keep America Beautiful downtown
Horry
Horry
County
County
and
type thing.
Palmetto Pride,
Yeah, so we get a letter from, you know, the different subdivisions, even though they're involved with the other organization. It's better for us to waive those than it is the other way.
And the
Okay.
policy limits it to a one-time per year. So if it was Keep America, once they did one, they wouldn't be eligible again for the next.
to continue that.
So they're getting a better deal like they got now.
Like they got now,
Yeah.
they need to leave that alone. The other thing is, when they did take me for a ride, there were several landings, and one of them had a, big box that's picked up, I guess. I don't know, I guess it's by the county or
I think,
somebody, or,
Parks and Recreation
Parks and Recreation.
cleans the boat landings right on now.
okay, there was a big green, I don't remember the
Barrel.
landing, but there was a big green container, and then it was piled on it and piled all around it, and was a mess.
The state years ago took position that they, on the state controlled landing, they picked up all the containers.
Okay,
And they started a campaign, you pack it in, you pack it out. Because what happens, if you go into Red Bluff Landing, there's a dumpster there, you're gonna grab your kitchen bag, I'm gonna take this to,
Yeah.
the dumpster at the landing.
yeah,
And then it's already full from Friday night,
yeah.
so
Okay.
it's just trash, you just got to keep it picked up.
How much trash they dump at your land,
We keep that one real clean.
Yes.
good answer,
The next grouping of programs all deal directly with our public education department. I know I gave you all the narrative, but I'll just briefly go over each one. The first one is the teacher liaison program. We have a contact person in each of the Horry County schools and their facilities who we deal with directly with anything regarding recycling programs. They are our internal contact, so as opposed to having to speak to 50 teachers at one school, we have a contact. During the course of the year, we do different things with the liaisons, but our primary function and the cost that you see, or about half of the cost that you see there listed, is related to the environmental banquet that we have for them every year. And I think you all attended that one last year. And that banquet is our opportunity to thank them for the work that they're doing on behalf of the recycling programs, and also to recognize those schools and those teachers, those administrators who are going that extra step beyond with regard to recycling or environmental protection. Any questions on that
So
one?
that amount is just for that banquet?
No, ma'am. About half of that amount is for the banquet, but then we have other, let's see, it's about $4,500 that's attributed to the banquet and the awards and the plaques and things of that nature. The other half is indirect costs, be it staffing, any things that we do within the school with the liaison.
So solid waste authority staffing?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
You're not paying the teachers?
No.
Okay.
No, ma'am. The CAT program, when we first started the CAT program, we thought we'd do something catchy. CAT stood for Cafeterias Against Trash, and we thought it'd be catchy if you spell it with a K. That was years ago. Anyway, the CAT program is the program that targets cafeteria recycling. So when the schools are making lunch, they have the number 10 cans, they have the large jugs, plastic jugs, the cardboard. That program is there to support mainly cafeteria recyclings. As the programs grow, we've been able to incorporate some other things. Some schools have internal recycling for smaller things, aluminum cans or plastic soda bottles or things of that nature. And they're able to put some of that in that container, depending on the quantity. If it gets too overwhelming, they need another container just for that. But primarily, it's used for that program. As I mentioned in the narrative, that program in essence saves the school district. Well, in that particular last fiscal year, it saved them approximately $41,000, and that's in the waiver of the hauling and disposal fees if it had come here to the landfill.
That saves the school 41,000?
School district, yes, ma'am.
Would that have come out of the school budget?
Yes, ma'am. And we let them know that number annually.
It doesn't seem to faze them. And actually, you'll have two dumpsters behind the school. One is $29 a ton, tipping fee, and one's zero. Depends on what you put in the zero one. And it's the number 10 cans and, you know, the big cans, cafeteria stuff. And we encourage them to do it, but it's awfully hard at some of these schools because all of them aren't open armed and glad to see you and glad to talk about recycling. And that's where these liaisons come in, because sometimes they can get to the principal. And somewhere down the line, they left these principals to run the schools and as they see fit. But we do save them a lot of money.
So if we cut out this cafeteria with a C, with a K, program, we could get $41,000 more in revenue? Is that just a too simplistic way of looking at it?
No, it's not too simplistic. I would hope that that wouldn't happen. Not that we wouldn't cut the program, but if the program was cut, I would hope that the school district wouldn't eliminate their recycling. And that maybe they would find another means to get it to us. If they didn't, if they chose just to put it all in one dumpster, as Danny said, yeah, that would generate the revenue on this end.
But the benefit, the recycling, do we have a quantity that we know they recycle?
Yeah, in that last school year, it was about 245 tons of material
Okay,
through that program,
okay,
just that program.
okay.
And with that program, with the classroom paper program, we also go into, with cafeterias, we go to the cafeteria managers training every year. We participate in their training session to give them the training on this program. We're at the custodian training every year to give them training on the program. And then throughout the school year, we're monitoring those containers to make sure there's not any issues going on, and we'll do individual training as needed.
If we just picked up theirs that cost them, would it go through the factory and recyclables picked out of it? It would not. It would just go
Go to MSW.
Yeah.
How many people, I know it's not very many, just a couple or three or something like that, that actually work in these programs that
You mean
talking about here?
staff people that work
People get a draws paycheck here.
directly? Two. We have two recycling coordinators in the public education department.
Yeah, you do some of it.
But that's direct cost. But when you fan out, depending on what's going on, some of everybody might touch some public education.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
that's some of the best people we got.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I thought I would.
Don't get your feelings hurt, Mike. Don't get your feelings hurt. Classroom, the classroom paper program, Mike mentioned that started even before the Solid Waste Authority started. Horry County was collecting office paper or classroom paper since the late 1980s. And in that program, we provide every classroom in Horry County schools with an 18-gallon recycling bin for their classroom paper. We also provide them with a 65-gallon roll cart so that in the classroom they have a recycling bin. At the back door or loading dock area, they have roll carts. Many schools have recycling teams of students that go around and collect the paper within the school and transfer it into the roll carts that we service from the roll carts. And that program is one that's serviced through the collection and hauling department. Again, the recycling coordinators go into the schools. We do classroom presentations. We do staff trainings. We're always in that mode of teaching and making sure the program's running as efficiently as it can.
And we go to all those, we collected all this stuff from the schools, even if they're way out in the county somewhere, where typically the private industry would not offer it because it was so far to go. It wouldn't be worth a while to go pick up 2 or 3 things of material. So we offer those, and that's part of that collection and hauling cost.
The Talking Trash program is probably one of our most popular and most readily recognized recycling programs at the schools. We started this program in 2001. It is a recycling contest that's targeting 4th graders in their recycling. The 4th graders, over the course of the 6-month program, will bring in a different commodity each month for 3 months, and then they'll repeat that commodity to bring in. We have the schools divided into 3 separate categories based on the size of their 4th grade classes, so that they're competing against schools or 4th grade classes of their same size. The schools that recycle the most of that material during the course of the month, there'll be 3 winners every month. The schools that recycle the most are named our monthly winners. We then, along with our partner, our media partner, will go to the school. We'll do a presentation at each school. Each school gets news coverage. Each school receives a new computer for the school. And every 4th grade student that participated will receive some type of prize that month. For instance, this month is February, so the product that we're recycling this month are plastic bottles. If a school wins, if Daisy Elementary is the winner this month for plastic bottles, we'll go in, they'll receive their recognition. We will give them a computer, a plaque, and each student then will receive a recycled prize. This month it's going to be yo-yos made from that recycled product. So we're constantly trying to teach that close-the-loop lesson so that they know that they can bring that plastic bottle in and this is what it can become. At the end of the 6 months, we determine which 3 schools recycled the most per category, which recycled the most throughout the entire program. Those schools are awarded an educational field trip grand prize. Normally, or the last few years, we've been going to Ripley's Aquarium, but in the past we've gone to the state park and have done an environmental excursion with them there. We've gone to the Butterfly Pavilion when it was in existence. We've gone to Alligator Adventure to teach that lesson. So we work with Horry County Schools, the director of elementary education in planning this field trip early in the year. We have to set dates and things of that nature. But they are also involved in the planning of that because field trips now aren't just for fun. We have to be able to teach them something while they're out. The cost that you see there includes the partnership with the media advertising firm, not advertising firm, the media outlet that will be doing the promotion of the program. And so that would be $84,000 of that $118. The remainder of that covers the cost for the monthly prizes to the students. It covers the field trip to the grand prize finale. And in the field trip, we cover the cost for lunch for the students, the cost of any bus transportation they need from the school, as well as a T-shirt for every student that comes, and chaperone. And the T-shirt was more our idea as opposed to anybody else's, because when you're out with that many students, and we'll have, our high day will be about 600 students at one location. When you have that many students on one property, you need to know which ones are yours. So for us, that's how we can identify. Anybody that has the Talking Trash T-shirt is with us. So we kind of keep them rounded up and in line that way. But that's the remainder of the cost that's associated with Talking Trash.
Any advertisements you see on TV currently on WMAF News is currently their media partner this year, and that's where you see the advertisement coming through, is that Talking Trash dollars.
And the advertisement does not just cover Talking Trash. As a part of that whole media proposal, it includes 65% towards Talking Trash. The other 35% goes towards any other commercials we deem to run. So they cover the gamut, not just Talking Trash, but our other promotional commercials also.
I think that you, and especially Danny, are to be commended on this TV thing. I understand all the TV money. I think you said for the years, $84K, and for the first 6 months, we spent about $42,000 or so. So it's running roughly consistent. But I remember a year or so ago, I was watching Clemson play Wake Forest on Thursday night, and there was an image ad came up about the Solid Waste Authority. Now, I know y'all didn't pick that game. You were doing run a schedule, but I'm thinking I almost want to take my shoe off and throw it at the television. But we were spending gobs of money on gabs of money, I should say, on promotion and advertising, and that's been cut way back. I know I speak for everybody here. Educating or spending money to educate young people and getting into recycling is probably the most long-term beneficial thing we can do to get to zero landfill and at least say 85% recycling. I support it 100%. And by the way, those ads, I know you had a lot to do with them. They're very well done. They don't sit there and talk about how great we are. They talk about what you need to do, the ABCs of recycling. I salute you for what you're doing.
I agree. I like that program. Are the schools helping pay any of this? The school board, the buses you're talking about, we're paying for all of this, and the school has no monetary participation in this?
That's exactly right.
Have you ever talked with them about taking part of this burden and partnering with us?
No, ma'am. What we've learned, and when we get into field trips, this will become even more evident. What we learned back before even Talking Trash, and this is a good time probably to talk about field trips, was that when we're in a school and we're teaching a lesson about recycling, and we're teaching a lesson about saving landfill space, it's a picture is worth 1,000 words. And we would encourage schools to come to the landfill. We offer tours every day, except for weekends. We offer tours Monday through Friday. The holdup on the school's end was we don't have funding. We can't pay for a bus to come. We can't pay for a substitute teacher to cover my other class while I'm taking students to see, the landfill or to see the material recycling facility. Um, Field trip grants do that. It affords that classroom teacher the ability to come to the landfill. They're teaching this in classrooms. They have to do environmental education. So they're already teaching about landfills and recycling and material recycling facilities. But this gives them an avenue where they can bring their classroom to the landfill. We take them on the landfill itself. The bus circles the landfill. On a good day, we might go on top of the closed landfill, so they can see what's going in. They can see the need to recycle firsthand. We then take them to the MRF. They go to the MRF, they debus. We bring them up to the multipurpose room there, and we will talk to them about everything that they're recycling at school, about everything they're recycling at home, and then we'll show them, demonstrate to them what happens to that glass bottle, what happens to the plastic soda bottle, how that aluminum can becomes a license plate. So they get firsthand, not just classroom teaching, but they get firsthand and sometimes hands-on. We let them hold and touch things on what the importance of recycling and saving landfill space. But if it wasn't for that field trip grant money, I would imagine, we saw 3,800 students in the last school year. If we saw 800, I'd be surprised, because they all are, what we always have heard, they don't have the funding to do it. Not that they don't want to, they just don't have the funding.
Well, I think what we're doing is a great thing, but the school gets over 63% of all the millage collected in this county. So this not having the budget, I have a problem with that, and frankly, I think they need to participate as partners with us. I agree with that, but I still think it's an avenue that needs to be explored verbally with them.
Yes, we might want to try to move on pretty quick. We're going to be here all night.
All night long?
No, can't do that.
I'm here till now. Environmental grants. We offer environmental grants to all Horry County schools. The purpose of the grant was to encourage just some out-of-the-box thinking, or to give an outlet for a school that might want to do a compost program through their cafeteria. And they need some supplies to get that program started. Again, supplies that either the teacher's going to buy themselves or it just won't happen. So this gave an outlet to those classrooms or those teachers who wanted to do something environmentally based. Those programs that are related to recycling or proper waste disposal, things of that nature, of course, get first dibs when we're looking at applications. But it gives them an outlet to request up to $250 per school year per class. High school scholarships, we started that program back in 2007-2008 school year. Again, we were looking at a way to encourage students to maybe consider an environmentally based career. Or for those who had already made that decision in their mind, I want to do this, a means to give them a head start, a hand in their higher education. So that program was developed.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Have you had any, do you keep up with the students that you give scholarships to see if they follow through with it?
We have some that will come back to us. We have Austin Ambrose always comes to mind from Ainer High, who will send us notes or cards and say, hey, I'm doing this now, or hey, I'm doing that now. When they apply for their scholarship, there are certain things that they have, certain criteria they have to meet, and also certain things they have to give to us. One of those is if you tell me that you're going to Coastal to be in a marine biology curriculum, we want your acceptance letter from Coastal. We need to see that. Now, once they get their acceptance letter and they get their scholarship money and they da-da-da-da-da, we don't go back the next year to say, hey, what you got going on, or, where are you at, this, that, and the other. But we do hear back from several of our scholarship recipients who are keeping us informed of what they're doing.
And we don't always give them all out because we don't get them applied for.
That's exactly right.
And way back when I was working with Wildlife Action, a lot of places like Walmart, different retail stores, because we did a lot of education with recycling and that kind of thing, and I really didn't know this till we got involved in it, gave out, I think one was Lowe's Food Stores, Walmart, and there was a fast food store that, Chick-fil-A, okay, had like a $5,000 to $7,000 grant, or that would give organizations that did this, and they had so few people apply for them. There were years that no one ever did, and they never did anything. Have you applied for any of this, to work with any of these costs?
Applied to any for any of those grants?
Yeah.
Not for any of these programs, no ma'am.
Okay, I think you could. I think from working with Wildlife Action and the money that we got from Chick-fil-A and Walmart, and then a Walmart opened a new store, it was somewhere between those three, close to $10,000. And anything that has to do with education and recycling, a lot of these stores have $1,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000, that if you apply for it, and as they told us, most people didn't know how to apply for that, or that that was even available, and we applied for it and we received those funds, and I don't see why we can't do that as well. And even if they want to be made a partner and have their name put on something they do, I think that would be okay.
We can look into that. Recycling Student of the Year. This is a program that we offer to all students from four-year-old program to seniors in high school to either have themselves, a parent, or a teacher nominate them as the Recycling Student of the Year based on their actions with regard to recycling or environmental protection. The application does have to flow through the school. So even if a parent wanted to nominate a student, they would still have to go through the school because it's limited to one application per school year. And the recipient of that award will receive a electronic reader, a plaque, and the local media recognition. Pop Art Contest is another contest that we started in about 2007, 2008. This one we just finished in November, and I think I did a report at the board meeting on it. And this encourages middle school students to create a work of art utilizing a material that is normally not recycled. We've used various materials in the past, anything from can tabs to soda bottle caps to candy wrappers. And the artwork that's selected through the selection committee to be the winning artwork, that child receives the same electronic reader, plaque, and the media recognition. Our special venue recycling, that's not a program, it's a program that we have in the budget annually. It's not one that's always utilized, and it's really directed to something that does not maybe fall into something we're already doing. For instance, when we decided that we were going to work with North Myrtle Beach on the pilot program that we're doing now with restaurants and bars, the containers or the roll carts and the indoor containers that we agreed to purchase came out of that particular fund or program. Because that was something that we had to go out and purchase, and not any infrastructure we had in hand. The event recycling, I'm sure you've all seen our event recycling trailer. Sometimes it's parked on the curb when you leave in the building. But the event recycling program is one where any resident, any business, any community function or event can apply to utilize recycling containers that we have in our event recycling trailer for their event. They're responsible for maintaining the containers. They're responsible for disposal of the material after the event and for returning the containers back to us. But we sometimes will take if it's a large enough event and if it's one that we're participating in, we will take the materials our own self. And that's all at no cost to that event. We kind of talked about the business recycling program when we talked about collection and hauling, but on a public education side, our recycling coordinators are our first face for most businesses in getting into our business recycling programs. They do a great many cold calls to businesses. We work closely with the county's building department. We get a list monthly, at least monthly, of new businesses that are coming into the area, and we're trying to get there before they even start. If we can contact somebody before they start construction, it's even better, because then we can help with their infrastructure planning as far as container space and things of that nature. They also handle all of the staff training for businesses. They conduct the waste audits to kind of go through and see what would be helpful for them as far as recycling programs in their business.
Do we know how much landfill space or how much you're getting from that business recycling? How many people do that and the tonnage?
On our cardboard program, we have over 800 customers. On our office program, we have over 300 customers.
What are those programs?
Cardboard collection, our 8-yard dumpster program.
The one that is under collection and hauling.
Yeah,
And the next one was what?
the office paper program.
We're still talking business recycling.
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we got $46,000 in expense for last fiscal year. And what was that, to pay somebody to go somewhere and talk to someone about using our services?
Yes, sir.
Who were we paying?
Those are the recycling coordinators. When we look at the time the recycling coordinators spend overall during the course of a fiscal year, we're estimating about 35% of their time is spent with business recycling, whether it's going on cold calls, whether it's training staff, whether it's doing waste audits or waste assessments. Approximately 35% of their overall time is spent on business recycling customers.
That would be one of those two persons that we were talking about earlier.
Yes, sir, the recycling coordinators.
In another organization, they might be referred to as marketing people. I mean, their job is to go out and find new customers and service
Well,
existing.
they find customers. However, it's not just simply going on that cold call and trying to sign up a business. We have to, once we're in there, we make sure the training happens. We make sure if there's issues dealing with that container, the recycling coordinator makes return trips to that business to make sure that's taken care of. If that business wants to look into recycling something different, for instance, we have several manufacturing companies who are part of the business cardboard program. If they're producing some new piece of plastic and they have a lot of plastic reject material, they'll call the recycling coordinator and say, I have this material, it's plastic, can I get rid of it? That recycling coordinator then goes to that business, picks up the material, we go do some research through our MRF and then in other instances on the internet to see if that particular material can be recycled, and if so, can it be done through us and our MRF? So it's not just solely going and signing up someone. We then have to maintain that contact to make sure the program is working like it should.
So we got 800 of one kind and 300 of another, and they're there to help generate and keep the business that we get from them.
Even with the pilot programs that we've done in the past, we did one at Heritage Preserve, and the pilot program that we're doing up in North Myrtle Beach now, that recycling coordinator will go and continue to monitor that program. You know, we'll go, me and Kendra went last month up to North Myrtle Beach, and we were the two ladies, I'm sure they all looked at us strangely, but we're looking inside containers. We need to see what's going on inside that container. If there's an issue, we need to make that contact. Sometimes it's 9 to 5, but when you're doing with a bar, it might not be till 6 o'clock that evening. So, you know.
It's tough duty, but somebody's got to do it.
Well, I mean, if you want the program to work like you want it to, you just got to do what you got to do.
I understand.
So, but they're dedicated in making sure that the programs work as we anticipate they would.
It's a way to try to allocate appropriately the time cost of some of those individuals. It may not be per the for a certain line item. You say, well, they do some of this and some of that. Part of their job is to educate school children, but part of their job is to market and generate and teach existing and new customers what they need to do.
Yes, sir. And that's a good segue to the last one, which is public education and community events. Again, the recycling coordinators deal with schools, they do with businesses, but we also deal with all the residents. So if there's a community event going on that we can participate in, we are usually there. Home show is coming up. We will be at the home show for 3 days, and we will be promoting composting. We will be promoting crushed glass, recycling as a whole. We don't talk just about county programs or the programs we have here. If you live in Myrtle Beach and you have a question about Myrtle Beach, recycling or solid waste, if we can't answer it, we will surely give you information on who can. You know, our ultimate goal is to educate, regardless to your age or what you got going on.
Do you see private waste haulers at those types of events?
Not usually, no,
For
sir.
promoting that? Do you see private waste haulers at school-related recycling programs?
No, sir.
So we have a monopoly on that.
Of course.
That's
Of
not
course.
fair, and have a monopoly.
Maybe they'd like to contribute and partner with us at that too. We wouldn't want to monopolize them and cause them a problem.
They would say that we make our contribution, it's called ad valorem property taxes, income taxes, and so forth. Also, they don't have Mike Campbell. Mike goes to every one of these things, but y'all don't pay him anything. Right, Mike?
Yeah.
I'm getting it on the side, Mr. Gray.
Oh. One thing I want you to think about when you think about these public education programs and the recycling programs is that there's a lot of material that would not get recycled if we did not have our MRF. We can handle material commingled, different types of products in one container, and have the ability to separate it. So the MRF plays a big part of us being able to collect a lot of material we do, because we can sort it, separate it, package it, and get it out.
I think we need to partner with our legislators and let them make some rules and regulations, like passing the glass bill and some other things, like in Germany, in your house, you have 6 cans, and you don't pay for any of the glass and the paper and those kinds of things. Then you have one little thing over here, and if it doesn't go in that recycling where they can do something with it, you pay a lot to take that little bag to the thing. And if our legislators would make green rules and regulations like that, it'd help us a lot.
We encourage them when we talk to them.
Okay.
I guess I'm gonna take up the last few of these. The MSW Recycling Incentive Program, I think most people's familiar with that. That's what we give people if they agree to bring the recyclable products to us. We give them, based on the amount of tonnage they do, they get a reduction in their tipping fee. That has been about $122,000 for the first 6 months of this year.
First 6 months.
Yep. We do the C&D Recycling Incentive Program, and we have the Recycling Incentive for designated facilities, and those are the costs for those.
All right. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Mhm.
That C&D recycling incentive, it originated so that we would give a benefit to the companies that were adversely affected to flow control, right?
Yes, sir.
And now you could say that, would you say that C&D recycling incentive program is now outdated due to the changes in flow control?
I mean, yes, but it is a way to encourage recycling. And is it part of the way to do it, or do we need to reduce some of that? That's a question we're going to be going through as we move through the facility, and those are some of the questions that's going to come up, you know, as we're going through this budget year. You know, do we want to continue to encourage? All of these programs cost. So what do you take? Which ones do you reduce or change or add to or delete from? So all of those things is something we want everybody to understand and realize. But yeah, that's what it was originally started, and it was $11 a ton when it originally started, because they were said these two facilities were adversely affected because they were getting rid of it at $8 a ton over in $8 and $9 a ton over in Marion County, and they decided that they said we were taking care of hurting their business, and so we came up with this program. Council asked us to come up with a program. We came up with it that said, if you meet the state mandated goals for the stuff you bring here, we'll give you a reduction on it.
So what could happen if we continue with that recycling incentive? Those companies, could they, and I'm not saying they would, but potentially could they take advantage of our incentive program to get rid of waste that they would not take to Marion?
They have to take it here in order to get the credit for the waste stream. Not their, like, for instance, one company that we have that is not participating in it, he don't get a fee, because if they don't come here, they don't get it off. We don't pay for what goes to facility. We only give them the reduction off of what comes here.
Okay.
And in order for them to get that reduction on what comes here, they have to meet the 75% state goal. So if they don't meet the state 75% goal for that facility, they don't get our $5, and they don't bring it here. So if they choose not to want to bring it here, they can carry it wherever they want to now.
I see where you're going, and I, just looking at numbers and everything, but actually we only have two so-called recycleries. One doesn't participate, doesn't get any of the credit. One does. So is that for, what period of time is that for there? That 55?
The 55 is the C&D recycling facility here at the landfill. I'm running that, yeah,
But what period of time?
12 months, FY13.
So that one company received a $55,000 discount in his cost.
No,
No,
And
The bottom-
It's 37,000.
37,000 is what the one company got on his bottom line cost. But the 55,000 is when Bill recycles at the recycling facility. And it goes, because he separated it just like these two private companies have with C&D Factory. What he carries back across the scales, he gets his $5 off too.
Okay.
As well as any other companies.
Yeah, or any other companies.
So Bill, you're treated as a profit center or a separate thing, and
Sort of.
I know it's a bookkeeping entry, but as far as the way Longlegs does it there, she says, well, your total cost is $55,000 less because you recycled. But anyway, on the 37,000, I think that's where you were going. You would say, well, okay, why are we doing that? But the only thing is, it only affects one company.
yeah, but, I mean, it's that one company that was affected by C&D flow control is no longer affected by C&D flow control. And so if that company is no longer affected by C&D flow control, then I think we need to look to see if we still need to offer them $37,000.
Well, let me just say that assumes that they're not taking anything over here. And of course, they're a trucking company.
No, I would say that, I would say that it doesn't matter, I may be wrong. I'm just putting a scenario out there. It doesn't matter if they bring everything here or if they take everything out of the county. The criteria for the reason why we started that incentive program was because we gave them a break because they might be affected by flow control. But now that flow control has gone away, then it could be that the incentive program needs to go away.
I understand where you're going. I just wanted to make sure you understood that in practicality, there's only one company.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't care if it's one company or 100 companies.
And
Just
the other thing is that a good deal, Mike and I have discussions about how much, but because it's trucking, I mean, the major cost of dealing with trash is trucking. A great deal of trash collected in Horry County is going to come to this facility because we operate it efficiently, and it's centrally located, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to drive 20 miles, I'm just picking a figure, past this facility to get to another one for a lesser cost per ton. So we don't yet know how much. Now, after about 6 to 12 months, Mike, you're going to have an idea of how much is going out. But all I'm suggesting is that, I see where you're going. I don't necessarily disagree with it, but there's also another factor to it.
Yeah.
They're gonna continue to, all haulers are gonna continue to bring, C and D to, our facility, because we have a good one, and it's nearer than any of the, there's one in, near Mullins, and there's one near Gresham, and there's one over in the Florence area somewhere.
PD Environmental at Quimby.
Uh,
And
Do we know, is this on what they bring to us that is 75% recycled, or on DHEX records that are 75% recycled?
if they get the $5, they have to send in a report to us.
That they do 75%.
And that's what I
Now,
present to y'all at the board every month. This company did it, this company did, this is how much they did.
But what if they did the 75% recycling, they took half of it out of the county and half of it here, we'd still pay them the incentive for the half they brought here, when in fact they didn't do 75% recycling in Horry County?
That's what I'm getting at.
That's what I thought.
You said
And
a
that
lot
sort of,
there than I did.
and that sort of leads me into one thing that I wanted to finish this up with and give you some thought processes as we move through the budget process. Just food for thought, I guess you can say. One of the big things that, as we went through the C&D recycling, or not the C&D recycling, CD removal that the county council decided to remove, that I got feedback from some of the council members was, well, we need to get competitive on the C&D if we want to keep it. I mean, I had several of them tell us that. So, as we were moving through this process to make you all aware, I got to thinking in my mind, how do you make that happen? How could you reduce it and still keep our programs? Because I'm sort of want both. I want the programs and I want to reduce the C&D. So we got to reduce the cost as much as possible. We do have some cost reductions that's hitting us now, and it's hit since January because we've not filled positions as people left. So we've got some 5 positions sitting out there that may not come back next year, but they're there. So how do we get to that? My first thought process was, well, we have flow control on MSW. And if we're going to choose to do some of these programs, and we need a guaranteed funding source, the only funding source we got guaranteed to maintain them is MSW. C&D could go up, could go down. Is market driven. So could we move these programs up under them, be funded only out of MSW and not C&D, and reduce the rate on the MSW? And how will we make that happen? That would be the least painful and still be able to reduce the fee. So you got to cut costs somehow.
You said reduce the fee on MSW.
On C&D, I meant.
Right,
Sorry,
that's
I meant
what
I meant
I was
C.
thinking,
Sorry.
wait,
Yeah,
we
correct me on that
use
one.
that and add to it and
Yeah.
it work out, I don't think.
Yeah, so how do we do that? We could do that by, number one is to reduce the HHW program, or pick one of these programs out that we'd like to reduce the cost in and transfer that savings over to C&D. Our MSW incentive program, our C&D incentive programs, if the board chose, it's a board decision to try to not, instead of paying $5, pay 2.5, or pay nothing, or something like that. So as we're thinking through this budget season, we want to look at that to see how we could possibly reduce the C&D tipping fee, and still do what we need to do, because I think the mission of the organization is to try to educate people to recycle it, give a continuous, unless our mission has changed, is continue to give them outlet for it, try to educate them, try to reduce landfill space. These programs reduce MSW landfill space. It doesn't do it for C&D.
Say that again.
These public education programs does not reduce C&D tonnage. It reduces MSW tonnage and landfill space in the MSW landfill, because of the type material you get.
I understand what you're saying, and because of that, we can then do or not do what?
Well, if we shifted some of these costs around, I think staff wants best of both worlds, is to keep all of our public education programs and find some way to reduce some other things, or charge more for some things as we move through this process and reduce the tipping fee on the C&D.
Well, we clearly.
And we'll gladly take any guidance or ideas you'd have. You know, you could reduce the amount you pay in on C&D in recycling. You could cut the MSW incentive in half. You know, there's several things throughout here you could do. Of course, the reduction in the employee cost
Yeah.
is part of that pie that we could look at going through through this process to try to do that. So, you know, we need to think about that and sort of think out of the box if we can of how we can make both of those things
Well,
happen.
we clearly are very, very competitive on all of our rates, but including MSW. And MSW is the one that is going to be the beneficiary of educational programs.
Absolutely.
You were making a case for, well, let's shift the cost of these educational programs about recycling over to MSW and perhaps make up any shortfall, all or part, by increased MSW fees and still be well under, I mean, as much as $15 to $20 a ton.
Yeah, well, I don't think
county.
the county's gonna ever go along with us doing an increase on.
No.
If you wanna take up that one, we right behind you.
I kind of agree with you, and to move these, you've still got one pot of money. You can shift anything around anywhere you want to, but you got one pot of money, no matter where you say it comes from. I would like to see some of these programs funded by different funding sources and to work with some different partners that actually pay or not charge us, and look at some other funding sources for that, because I don't want to give up the programs that you have here. The other thing, I guess I'm just going to ask you a question because I'm sure you probably have a good idea of what this is. I want to know what it will actually cost a person to take this, and I realize if you're in this side of the beach or if you're closer to Dillard, wherever the landfill over here is that they may be taking it to, it'll be a different thing. But it's actually a cost to people, an operating cost in oil, gas, maintenance, whatever, the time to take C&D out of this county, and then the tipping fee. If you were going to get a truck and put a man on there and pick up something and pay for the gas and whatever to get it over to one of the other landfills, theoretically, what would it cost you?
You know, without looking, the average is probably gonna be around $2 a mile,
$2 a mile.
give or take a sum. But what you got is, if you got a container, a construction container that's got 2 tons in it, or 3 tons, chances are it's not gonna pay you to take it over there.
Right.
Because it's not, you just only got 2 tons to spread that total cost across. But if you got a container that's got 5 tons or 9 tons in it, or 7 tons, because I'm gonna get a reduction of $5 or $6 a ton, it may, if it's 13 more miles for me to drive to carry it, and it's $26, yeah, but I can get 35, because of my tonnages, I can get 35 back. In other words, if I had 5 tons in there and I got a $6 reduction over across the, what did you call that, Bill? Across the bridge? You know, if you did that, then you could justify carrying it over there, because your cost is really not any different.
Okay, well, what I basically was trying to do from looking at this was to see what we would have to lower a tipping fee to be in the medium range of being competitive. And what do you think that would be?
Couple to $3 a ton.
Okay, and how many tons are in a truck?
Well, they range. The most you can haul is 10 tons.
Okay,
The least you can haul is 100 pounds. I mean, it just ranges.
okay. Does
I think
that,
a lot of your C&D loads average about 4 tons.
Yeah, it'll run 3 to 4 tons is what the average is.
okay, so if I took that truck from Myrtle Beach to Sandland, what would it cost me?
I don't know what the mileage is, Ms. Creech. I'd have to look at the mileage, and I'd be glad to look at it and see.
Okay, I'd like to know.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to know basically,
And what you're gonna do is not take it from Myrtle Beach. You're gonna
Right.
take the difference between here to there
right,
and back. And
Right,
that's where that's
because
from.
they're already gonna have to come this far anyway.
Right.
They're all
Okay.
coming back
Yeah,
here.
anyway, it doesn't matter, it's just a difference from here to there.
Right.
Okay.
I think out of this whole meeting, the biggest point that we got to come to is the philosophy here going to be get competitive. Now, we have heard the argument at this table today. Is it right for us to be competitive with a private group? I think that's the point that we got to come to. Is it going to be okay for us to play tough in this arena and be competitive?
And make or at least break even.
Yeah,
That's
you're
right.
right, we need to break even, we're not for profit.
Or pay for the do-good programs. Pay for
Or-
these
or what?
pay for these do-good programs that everybody likes to have that cost money that the people across the bridge don't have.
I think government has the responsibility to do the right thing. We're doing what we're doing for the people and for the schools and for the children. I think we have that responsibility. I've been in private industry all my life, and I never asked a government entity or another human being to give me a break or fund me. So frankly, I'm not interested whether private industry likes what I choose, personally or at the Solid Waste Authority. I don't think I need to be, or the Solid Waste Authority, or any government needs to be throwing over everything to private industry and making it easy for them, us losing money, and cut the cost of doing what we should be doing for the people in this county. And that's about how nice I know to put that. So,
I think that's a false narrative, if you don't mind me saying that. The total cost of these programs here, the do-good sides, just a few hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we're losing bukus of money over here on our new factory. That's not a reflection on you, Bill. You built a very nice facility over there, and you got it. I think that whether we're in government or we're in private business, the first thing you do is say, well, where is the biggest money? If we're gonna lose big time, 35,000 tons a year, which is what we estimate that we might, then let's go to where the big time money is. I think Danny said, what do we need to do to get competitive? Well, if we mothballed the factory and didn't lose the money that we were losing there, we'd pick up $400,000 and some thousand a year, just based on these numbers right here. Most of the C&D goes to the hill now anyway. We only take about 1 or 2 trucks that come through the gate to the factory, and we expect that we're going to lose X number of trucks. That's why we're having this whole exercise. So I think one of the things that we should consider, I'm not saying we should do it, but is let's eliminate the loss where it really occurs. And that is a place where it occurs. And then if we did have as much as, say, $400,000 a year of money to use, we could then use that to reduce our fees and get all the C&D that would otherwise go across the river.
And if we eliminated the C&D recycling factory, you would probably have more people going across the bridge, because they get $21.50 a ton over there when they pull it over there.
Yeah, but we're gonna knock our price down.
Not to $21.50, I don't think we could.
Well, you said $2 or $3 is all we needed to do. You can't get that on.
Well, I'm just saying, if it's profitable for me to take it at the C&D recycling facility at $21.50, and I got 4 tons in there, and I don't know the numbers, I'm just using examples. But if it's 4 tons in there and I can take it to the C&D recycling facility for $21.50, and that magic number keeps me from taking it across the bridge, and you eliminate that, and I gotta pay $24 for it, that 4 tons may give me the incentive to go across the
Only
bridge.
1 or 2 trucks out of 20, and there's only one person getting it, and it's, less than $40,000 a year. I really don't,
Well, I'm not talking about the designated facility, I'm talking about the factory.
that's where you're getting it.
It's two different items.
Well, how much is?
If I'm a hauler,
Yeah,
and I come in this gate, and I've got material in there that I can take to the C&D factory, my tipping fee rate's $21.50.
your tipping rate what?
$21.50.
Right.
That's been averaging 1,000 to 1,200 tons a month.
Right.
Okay, divide that by 4, and you come up with the amount of loads that's going over there. So it's about 300 loads a month. And I'm saying that if 4 tons was the magic break number of whether you brought it here or brought it there, if I bring 4 tons to the C&D recycling factory and I get it for $21.50, not saying 4 tons is the magic number, just using that as an example, then if you went up on that rate, it may pay me to go somewhere else.
Well, I
And I-
agree with Danny,
So I'm trying to say if you cut that program out, you could force more away.
well, I couldn't disagree with that more necessarily. We really don't know how much we're gonna lose, if
Absolutely.
any. And we really don't know what decision goes into the minds of the people that are gonna be hauling, if they do in fact, well, some will haul it to, Sandlands, and some will haul it to, Marion County landfill over in Mullins. Some may go to PD, what is it?
PD Environmental.
PD Environmental. We'll just have to see,
Wendy.
how much that comes to be. It may be that it's not enough that we can't trim, on the margins of what we need to do. All I'm suggesting is that the big money that we're losing so far is over on the factory, and we shouldn't just take it off the table and say, we just got that there.
I'm not taking it off the table, I don't want to do that. Everything's on
We
the
need
table,
to-
I think.
We need to take a look at it, and it's certainly not a criticism of you, Bill. You do an excellent, outstanding job. I said before, I like to go over there and watch it. But I like what Danny and the staff has done here. And that is on one area of one of the important things that we do, we're having detailed discussion without unanimous agreement. I don't mean this as a criticism. I've been to many a board meeting, and it's almost a rubber stamp that slides down the board. We ain't getting that today. We're getting diverse opinions, sometimes directly opposed to each other. And I think that's the best way to run any organization. And Danny, I hope that as we move through this process, that we will look not only at recycling matters, but we'll look at operational matters in a similar fashion as they may exist, maybe 2 or 3 operational matters, as well as finance and administration, because it's been very illustrative to me to learn some of the things that I've learned here today. I'm just totally impressed.
I agree with you on both of those and on that, as well as the C&H. It looks like that million and then 248, both of those seem to be where we're losing the most money.
C&H.
And that's,
Collection.
collection and hauling.
Yeah.
Those two seem to be the biggest difference in monies, and that's one reason when you told me that C&D Recycling Factory, there was also $238,000 in the tipping fee that I'd like to see, other than what that exactly is, if the landfill space we save, the other money that actually goes along with that from somewhere else, so that I can actually see the full amount that is actually lost and
Well, you know,
on those
and
two.
you say lost, but, you know, like the collection and hauling,
Yeah.
if you took away the 41,000 tons of material that it hauls to the MRF, what effects would it have on the MRF then?
Well, that's what I want you to show me.
Yeah,
is the whole picture on both of those, because I think we're making more and saving more than just the difference between $1 million and 248,000. And that's what I want to see.
That's why I'd like to ask Jan I think the committee would agree, put the pieces of the puzzle together if you could and show us total picture with Bill. If y'all can coordinate, like for the MRF, if you could show us total revenue and landfill space saved and get the total picture together. I know it probably won't be easy, but you're smart.
One of the things that's gonna be difficult to do, that doesn't mean it's impossible, I'm sure you're up to the task. Whatever we add over onto this sheet, the revenue that comes from these types of operations, you have to take it away from another sheet.
That's correct.
And so we have to be sure that we show, well, what we gain over here, we lose over here.
That's correct.
And one of our recent former chairmen told me this. And I'm not his favorite friend. I was very surprised when he told me this. He said, we're running that MRF at about 3/4 of a shift. And he said, what we need to do is increase the throughput. He didn't use that word, but the amount of volume, we need to increase it where we're running 2 shifts over there. And that was an indication to me that we are not getting the return on investment. We spent about $12 million over there. We're not getting the return on investment there that we should be getting based on industry standards. That means that if we take money away from it, we get less than that. I know we're working hard over there to increase that. That's why we contracted with Sunoco. We used to take only material from Horry County. Now we take, through Sunoco, we take material from several counties that come through here. And we get more output and more volume. And we need to work on increasing revenue at the MRF. And if we take revenue away from it, we need to be sure that we take into account that it adds over here, but it takes away over there.
Yeah, and let me just say this, and the MRF made, last year was a down year for it in FY13 because of market prices driven way down. The MRF itself broke even and made money last year. And we do include depreciation and all the costs associated with that facility when you look at that of $133,000. The year before that, we made $1 million. This is just a down year. If last year our cost was $1 million for collection and hauling, the MRF covered it. And it would have been good. This year we're saying because it is an organization, because the MRF and the collection and hauling together is losing money, and the collection and hauling loses money is what you're saying. Our goal to get in this thing was when the markets are down, that the tipping fees pick it up. And last year was a year that the tipping fees had to support that collection and hauling. But the year before it did not. Now, do we want to bail out of the collection and hauling because it's bad? Or do we want to stick in it till the market prices go back up and the MRF's making $1 million and it's covering the cost? That's the question at hand here. And do you want to continue to offer those programs? I mean, I can sit here and put numbers together from last year's budget, and I can give you 101 reasons why we should close it tomorrow. But is that what we're about here? Because the year before that, we made $1 million.
And that's the thing that's bad about projections. I've been living with projections for 40 years, and I don't believe I ever got one of them right. And every time I run it out and it's going to be real good, it don't turn out to be nowhere near that good. And you run it out and say, well, this one ain't going to be so good, and all of a sudden it comes along. And I agree with you that there's nothing more volatile, because I used to deal with scrap steel, but and what you're dealing with over yonder is like scrap steel. It'll be up here, and man, you look like you're the king of the hill. And then it'll drop for reasons you don't have any fathom of. Same thing with paper or tin cans or whatever it is we recycle over there. It is very difficult to project what your revenue is gonna be. Your costs stay the same. It's hard to reduce them. And, what we are about is, a multifaceted question, like I said, it's like a calculus problem with 6 variables and they all change instantaneously. But this has been an exciting, you know, there's a society in Myrtle Beach called a Plaver Society, and they meet once a month. Are you familiar with the Plaver Society? Plaver just means this. And they'll have one person, it's kind of like a Toastmaster thing. And he just gets up and talks about whatever, and then at the end of it, they all talk about whatever he talked about. But it's always very interesting. It's an honor to be in that society. It's an honor to be at this table because we have had the most in-depth depth and breadth discussion, and it hasn't all been, well, we need to do this or we need to do that. I think it's hard to draw, for me anyway, hard to draw a hard, fast conclusion because you brought out very good points. And Mike, you amaze me with your ability to remember numbers and relate them from year to year and year within year. But this has been a very interesting discussion. I hope we have more of them, not necessarily with this group. Danny, do you see this sort of thing happening with the other operations?
Well, we have the other operations tied down now to the profit centers. We know what they are. Sometimes you have a program that you may not need to be in, but I'd hate to call Myrtle Beach in the morning and tell them all them curbside recycling they picked up, don't bring them to us because we're going to shut down till the market goes back up. We can't do that. We got to be in it, and I don't want anybody to leave here thinking that the MRF's going broke or the trucking and hauling's broke because those things work together. The trucks bring it to us and the MRF sells it, they get the profit. So it looks kind of like one's in bad shape and the other one is just kind of a breaking even. We've got to, we don't get taxes, we aren't able to go back if we have a bad year and double up. I mean, we're an enterprise fund, and we've got to make the money work, and we got to put money aside when we have the money for those bad years. And I think we'll have more of these. We had an all-day workshop last year on the budget, and we could have talked like this during it. It was very open, begged for questions to get everybody kind of up to speed on where we're going. But we have no problem laying out any operation we have on this table and discussing it just as we have discussed any of these today. We have done that. We know what each operation costs. So I have no problem doing that whatsoever.
Well, I'm personally, I'll be in the role of Mike and the other committee meetings, but I think that's very beneficial, and I hope our other committees will be charged with doing something very similar to this. It's very, very educational. I think we'll end up as a policy board making better decisions.
I think that the thing that I hate the worst about these meetings is that someone will take one number out of that thing and not look at the whole picture, explain the whole picture, and blow it all out of proportion. I'll probably see it on the TV news tomorrow night or something. But we have an integrated system here, y'all, and we have a mission. And the question is, has our mission changed? So far, we've not been instructed to change our mission. Sometimes we make money, Sometimes we don't make money in certain programs, but we always break even at the end of the year.
But we aren't charged with being a secret organization.
Right, absolutely.
And things like this, open it up and say, no, that they are not secret is not the word I'm looking for, closed society. They really debate things, and they get into it at times. And so I hope that we do this again for operations and for finance and administration and so forth.
But it seems like we've got to the point now that this crowd can't debate. I catch the devil downtown if we have a couple of members that debates an issue. That's not right. I think we got to be open. I think we got to discuss things. And like I say, there's not one piece of record in this whole building that we're secretive about or we don't want nobody to see. I mean, we've got everything. This thing here's being recorded for the true world to see tomorrow. The books are open. Everything's on a check register. I mean, I don't know what else we can do to make it more open, but any committee that wants to discuss and look at stuff in depth, and we got the information. We've been working for a couple of 3 years now on getting these cost centers put together, and that's what Esther was talking about today. Just like the two people that are great in the job they do, they're spread over different operations, and so a percentage of their time is spent on each, and that's not an easy thing to come up with. That takes a lot of doing to pull that stuff together.
Well, that transparency that you're referring to is outstanding. It's only been in effect a year or so that we've published the check register online and have tape meetings and that sort of thing. And I think that the criticism you received downtown hopefully will be lessened by the fact that, well, we talk about stuff just like they do on county council, and things do get resolved.
Well, this has been very helpful for me as a new member, because until you look at all of that and you explain to us what that is and where the money comes from, you really don't know. And I ask an awful lot of questions, which is a great thing, and I appreciate you taking it that way. And even if I disagree with anybody, I'm not mad about it, and I like to hear what you have to say and you have to say and the staff have to say, because if you put all that together, I think we can come out with the best solution for everybody.
And I think the budget process, if we square up these tables in here and sit around the table like one and ask questions, and I don't think there's a stupid question when it comes to budgets. We all learn from them. If Mike tells me 4 times what a certain program does, I learn something each time. I pick up something different from it each time. So we're going to be very open in the budget, and we'll be here as many hours as it takes to get the answers and get people feeling comfortable. I want y'all to feel as comfortable with this operation as staff does. And I don't know of one staff member doesn't feel good about the operation and are able to stand on it and justify what we're doing and what we got and where we are and where we're going. Now, if we need to change the direction, then that's y'all's call.
Yeah. Frankly, I think you could do without the board members and the other things, but your staff would probably go on and run it real well. I'm impressed with your staff.
Yeah.
And I am too.
You mentioned if we need to do anything different. I would just say continue what you've started here and begun in the last year or so. I think is outstanding. And you know, it's Logic 101. You have thesis, antithesis, and you put the two together and you come up with synthesis. That's what they taught me in law school 101. And And that synthesis is where we should be. And I think discussions like this, hopefully on operations and on finance and other subjects, will yield to a synthesis that we all buy into and feel comfortable about. I enjoy serving with you and with you, John.
Me too, it's good. It's like, somebody told me the other day, this, why is being a lawyer so stressful? And I said, because a surgeon has a stressful job. I said, yeah, but a surgeon doesn't have another person in there trying to kill your patient while you're trying to rescue him. And so, that's a good part of debate. You got two sides. Just don't try to kill, no. Well, let's wrap this up, because I want to make a motion to get paid by the hour instead of by the meeting. But, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move.
I got a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor, aye? Adjourned. Thank you.